Look, I get it. Most people who have been dealing with obesity have been struggling with the issue for years or decades, and they've followed all the advice and things just haven't worked out. So what I really want you to understand here is that the people who are giving you that advice are idiots. Now, I don't really know these people. I don't know if they're idiots, but what I want you to understand is that they're idiots. Because this is not about how many calories you take in. You got to get the right number right down to a T situation. This is not a, hey, why don't you just have some willpower situation. It's not about that. Obesity is about physiological issues and malfunctions that are creating the problem in the body, and no amount of willpower is going to correct that. So what I have found when I've been able to help clients lose more than 230 pounds in a year naturally, that the common denominator with these clients who have lost a lot of weight was that they said that it was easy. Now, it did take effort. They did have to do work to make that happen. But once they started to work with their body and their unique body chemistry, that all of a sudden this struggle went away. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to give you 8 steps to help you figure out what's going wrong with your body and start working with your body instead of working against it. And some of these steps, you're not just going to watch a video and then by Thursday you're going to knock off 150 pounds, but I'm going to give you the basic steps, and for some of these steps, you're going to have to figure out which ones are the most important for you and your unique body chemistry, and you might have to learn a little bit more about some of these steps if those are the most important things for you. It's going to take some effort, but the great news is that when you can learn how to work with your body, all of a sudden the weight gets to come off and you get to keep it off. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
Now, when we're following this bad calories in, calories out advice that we see out there, one thing is true is that most people can white knuckle it for about a month and they can get through that and they can be like, oh man, I lost some weight, way to go. But within about a month, most people are going to kind of fall apart and kind of go back to those old pathways. And the reality is that this is because there is no diet that is right for every person, because we all process foods differently. So instead of running after the next shiny object that you see going down the street, you really want to learn how your body's operating and what foods and types of foods your body's processing best, and then start to gravitate in that direction, maybe while you fix some other things with the body. So here's what we want to look at. Step number 1, and this is the biggest step. This is going to be the most important hurdle, and nobody tells you to do this. The biggest thing is that you have to fix any digestive symptoms. So if a person is dealing with any burping or bloating or acid reflux or diarrhea or constipation or nausea or skin or acne issues, or maybe they just kind of feel like, food just kind of sits there like a rock for hours. All of those are really strong signs that digestion is not working correctly. And here's the problem. When digestion isn't working correctly, we can't get the nutrients out of the food that we're eating. Did you know that that's why we eat food? We don't eat food to get the calories that help us get through the day. The body can get its own fuel from its own body. You can get it from stored fat. It can even break down its own tissues and turn that into fuel when it really needs to. But we need to eat food because we need the nutrients in those foods. We need the vitamins, we need the minerals, we need the amino acids, we need the fats. That's why we need to eat food. So what we need to understand is that when we eat food, the stomach makes hydrochloric acid, or HCl. And this HCl is meant to help us start to acidify and break that food down. And then once the food is acidified, it leaves the stomach and it goes into the duodenum, which is the first 10 inches of the small intestine. And that's when the gallbladder squirts alkaline bile down onto this acid product. So this alkaline bile meeting the acid product from the stomach, these opposite pHs create a sizzle. And this sizzle is what really helps us bust that food apart and get all the nutrients out of that food. So the problem is, today it's really common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid for a wide variety of reasons. And it's also really common for someone's bile to become too thick and sticky to flow correctly, and then it's not coming down and meeting that acid product and neutralizing those acids and creating that sizzle. So if a person has either of those sides of digestion not working correctly, they're not really getting the nutrients out of the food that they're eating. So when they can't really digest that food breaks down by process of rotting and fermenting. And the rotting and fermenting creates all these gases and toxins and all these digestive symptoms. And let's say that a person can only break that food down enough that they can get 10% of the nutrients out of that food. Well, if a guy can only break down a cheeseburger to get 10% of the nutrients out of that cheeseburger, doesn't it make sense that he would need 10 cheeseburgers to get the same amount of nutrients that somebody else might be able to get from one? It's really just about math. So when someone is like, oh, I'm hungry all the time, I just ate, but now I need something else, the body is screaming because it's not getting what it needs. It's not about willpower, it's about the body knowing how to get what it needs just so it can function and get through the day. So for a lot of people, obesity can be about a starvation issue. It's a starvation issue because the body and the cells are not getting what they need. The person may be eating plenty, but the cells are not getting the nutrients that they need. So what you want to look at is, are there aspects of digestion that are not working correctly? And if there are, what steps do I need to take to improve those? And my book, Kick Your Fat in the Nuts, chapters 3 and 4, walk you through that process so you can just do it yourself, figure out what's going on and what steps you need to take. And the book is available on Amazon, but I'm going to put a link in the description below this video where you can get the whole thing totally for free. And you can just jump right to chapters 3 and 4 to figure out, are there digestive aspects that really need help? Because if you're not going to fix those and you're not going to get the nutrients out of the food that you're eating, your body is going to scream for more. It's going to scream for more. So this is one of the biggest factors that really has to be corrected to make this process a little bit easier. Now, the next malfunction that is really common with obesity is that the detoxification pathways of the body are not working correctly. So step number 2 is we have to fix any malfunctions in the detoxification pathways. So the major thing that happens when the body wants to detox is that the liver filters out all the junk and all the toxins out of the body. Most people know that. But what most people don't know is that the liver takes those toxins and it puts it in the bile that it makes. And then that bile is stored in the gallbladder, and then it comes down and helps us create that sizzle and neutralize the acids, all that great stuff. But as the bile continues through the intestinal tract, it's taking those toxins with it. And when we poop like a champion, the toxins go out the back door. This is the main exit strategy for toxins in the body. But if someone's bile becomes too thick and sticky to flow correctly, now the toxins aren't going out the back door. They get reassimilated in the system, and the liver has to filter them out all over again. The liver's like, hey, I did this. Why are you giving me this again? I did this like 3 times. And then the liver's doing the same job over and over, and it gets overwhelmed. And it can't function, and it can't do all the jobs that it needs to do. And as these toxins accumulate, the body says, well, we can't have this in the bloodstream. We'll die if the bloodstream goes in the wrong direction too far. So I'm going to take some of these toxins and I'm going to shove them in a fat cell. Now, the body can't put all toxins in fat cells, but there's a lot of things it can put in fat cells, and it's putting in a fat cell for safekeeping, so when things are working better, it'll take it back out and it'll get rid of it. The problem is things don't get better, and the coast is never really clear to take those toxins out of the fat cells, and the fat cells expand, and then so do we, and then we have to buy bigger pants. So this is a really big problem with obesity, is a lot of times the detoxification pathways are just not working. Sometimes the body will try to push stuff out through the skin and it'll create all these skin issues, or maybe a person will sweat a whole lot, and the sweating is just a mechanism of, this place is way too toxic, we need to get some of this stuff out of here, so I'm going to heat things up so we can sweat and push some of these toxins out through the pores. So when you can fix the detoxification pathways, all of a sudden everything works, and we don't need to put all this stuff in fat cells, and the stuff that's in the fat cells, we can pull it out and get rid of it. So what I want you to do when you're done with this video is go down to the description below and watch our video on 10 signs of poor bile flow. And you want to see, are any of these things showing up for me? And if they are, I really need to take steps to thin that bile so I can get it flowing again and open up the detox pathways. Step number 3 is to fix any cravings. You can have a good plan. You can have, hey, I went and bought food. Hey, I'm cooking this food myself. I'm doing a great job, but now I really want Nutter Butters. So you're not going to be able to get past cravings if the body can't really digest the healthy food. It doesn't matter how healthy the food is that you're eating. If your body can't break it down, it's rotting and fermenting and turning into toxic gook. So the body's like, I don't really want gook, no thank you. I really want nutrients. That's why that digestive process is so important, so you can get nutrients out of the food. Otherwise, the body's going to scream for this junk, because this processed carbohydrate junk is a lot easier for the body to break down when digestion is not working optimally. So the body will say, ooh, yeah, toaster pastries, I want some of that. Give me that again. I can get fuel out of that real easy. And these cravings are going to derail your efforts, and it's going to make it where you don't really see the results. So fixing cravings is really big. So in the description below, we're going to put our video on how to fix sugar cravings, and that's going to walk you through figuring out which aspects are not working correctly for you so you can get rid of the craving. When you can get rid of the cravings, everything becomes a whole lot easier. All right, step number 4 is going to throw some of you, but I want you to eat real food. So real food comes out of the ground, or it comes off of a tree, or it comes from an animal that was peeing on the tree. So we need to eat real food. Real food does not come from a vending machine. Real food is not a toaster pastry. Real food is not alcohol. These things are all going to push you the wrong way, and the body's going to say, look, I don't even know what carbo 5849 is. That's what's in this processed food. It's all these chemicals and junk that the body doesn't even know what it is, and when it's foreign to the body will view it as a toxin, and if the toxic pathways to get the toxins out are not working, it's going to store it in fat cells. So we really need to eat the food that the body is looking for, and when it can get that and you can digest it correctly, all of a sudden the body's not going to keep screaming for other stuff. Did you know that you can eat like 2 or 3 times in a day and feel satiated the whole day? When the body's working correctly, it really works that way, and then everything becomes easy. So it's really not about the calories of the food, it's about how do those foods affect your body. And liquid sugars like soda and alcohol, those are all going to affect your body in a different way than real food would. Now, eating real food is not going to work for most people if they have not handled steps 1, 2, and 3. Because real food is harder to digest. You're not going to be able to get any real energy out of that food if you can't digest it. So this becomes a lot easier when you handle the first 3 steps, and then everything just starts to work. Step number 5 is to eat the right carbohydrates. Now, when we eat carbs, sugars, or liquid sugars, that raises our blood sugar, and that's going to spike our insulin levels. And as long as insulin is high, it blocks the body's ability to access stored fat and burn that for fuel. So we really want to learn how to keep our insulin on an even keel and not create these big spikes and crashes, because insulin takes a lot longer to come down than our blood sugar. So we can run out of blood sugar and the body's like, hey, I don't have any fuel because I just burned up all the sugar, but insulin is still too high for me to access stored fat and burn that for fuel. So I got nothing. Give me some kind of candy bar. So that's why we get those cravings. But when we can keep insulin on an even keel and not create those spikes, it comes down a lot faster and allows us to access stored fat for fuel, and then we don't have those cravings. So we like to remove all the high carbohydrate foods and eat what we call medium carb foods. So real food in a medium carb fashion are things like sweet potatoes and butternut squash and yams and Brussels sprouts. These things are real food. Toaster pastry, not real food. So we want to eat the carbohydrates that give us the fuel that we need, but not so much that we create this huge spike and crash. And a person could also use like a ketogenic diet or a very low carb diet. These can speed up the process, but these diets are not right for everybody. If you want to see that if your body is set up to succeed on a ketogenic diet, we'll put a link in the description below for our video on who should not use a ketogenic diet. But the first steps are always just reducing the carbohydrates. Eat more medium carb foods, and if that starts to go well, then you could transition into a ketogenic diet and speed up your results. Just know that you don't have to use a ketogenic diet to lose hundreds of pounds, and also a ketogenic diet is not going to be right for everybody, and not everybody's going to lose 100 pounds when they're using a ketogenic diet. So it's really about figuring out your body chemistry and understanding what's right for you. Step number 6 is to cycle your carbs the right way. So while we're sleeping, we're not eating any carbohydrates and our insulin has a chance to come down. So what if we can just extend that window when insulin is very low? If we don't have any carbohydrates for breakfast, we're extending that window of time when insulin can come down. Maybe instead we don't have any carbohydrates for dinner and we start that window a little bit earlier. So if you can put your carbohydrates in the right location, you can get the fuel that your body needs, but you can also keep insulin low a lot longer and extend that window when your body can really burn stored fat. Now, some people will be able to do this for even days at a time where they have like really low carb foods, maybe just green vegetables and proteins. And some people are going to need some carbs every day. And my book that you can get for free below kind of walks you through running simple self-tests that you can do at home with tools you can pick up at a pharmacy or a health food store and help you figure out, where are my electrolyte levels? How is this other imbalance working? How many carbohydrates do I really need to keep from having cravings? So when you can figure those things out, it makes everything a whole lot easier. Step number 7 is to implement some gentle intermittent fasting. And I say gentle because people get a little bit nuts and like, hey, I'm going to fast until Easter. And you really don't want to do that, because when you're stressing the body out, it's going to raise stress hormones, and those stress hormones are going to tell the body to store things as fat. Don't burn fat, store more as fat. So we really don't want that happening. And we'll put a link in the description below for our video on who should not use intermittent fasting. But once you can correct the bodily malfunctions that will make intermittent fasting a problem, then you could really benefit from intermittent fasting. And if you can fast through breakfast and just give your body a little bit of an extended period of time where it can really burn fat effectively, it can really speed up the process. You just don't want to go nuts and stress the body too much, because it will backfire and make the results really slow down a lot. So check out that video to see if it's appropriate for you, and if it's not, then just take the steps to correct the bodily malfunctions so that you can use it on some days. And sign number 8 is to go for a fasted walk. So if you can walk in the morning before you've eaten anything, it really increases the chance that your body has the ability to burn stored fat for fuel on that walk. Now, you might not be able to start off with this, but as you correct malfunctions and fix digestion, you can really get up and just do your walking in the morning, and that can really allow your body to burn stored fat. And for a lot of people, walking will work even better than running. So don't feel like, oh, I got to do all this exercise to lose the weight. A lot of people can just do a little bit of walking, and that'll really speed up the process a lot. Now, I'm going to give you one bonus step, and that's when you go off the rails, because most people are going to go off the rails at some point and slip up and do something wrong at some point. And what I don't want you to do is say, oh man, I ate something I wasn't supposed to eat, so I might as well eat whatever I want and I'll start again next week or next month or next year. Just because you ate something wrong doesn't mean that you screwed everything up and you might as well start again over when you feel like starting again over. Whatever you slipped up on, immediately just do the next right thing. And it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter if it's, I'm going to eat something that's the right thing, I'm going to prepare, I'm going to get something made ahead of time so it's ready to go, I'm going to go for a walk. Just do the next right thing and get yourself right back on track. The body doesn't work a week at a time or a month at a time. Everything that you eat counts. So if you eat something wrong, that doesn't mean that the whole day is shot. Just do the next right thing and get right back on track, and you don't have to spiral into this dark, cavernous cave that sends you in the wrong direction. You can get right back on track, and then that slip up doesn't create as much trouble. So you can see there's a lot of things that you can do to really make the body have an easier time of letting go of stored fat. And then this whole process just becomes easier. So just know that you can do this and that it can be easier when the body is functioning correctly. And the great news is that you can correct those malfunctions that are taking place. And what I want you to do right now is jump over and watch our video on understanding digestive issues so you can figure out which aspects of digestion might need help for you and the steps you can take to correct them. I can't wait to hear about your results.